everybody, what's going on? You're watching the Sit Down. I'm DJ Sixsmith, talking a little rugby today. Mike St. Clair is here with us. What's up, man?
What's going on?
How's everything going?
It's going good, No complaints. It's Friday, so TGIF.
Absolutely. You are a really interesting person because you play professional rugby, you work at Facebook, you're kind of bouncing a little bit of everything. So how's life going for you?
Life is going pretty well. I have no complaints. You know, it's interesting when you first start playing rugby, you don't really know how big of a world that it really is. And then once you start seeing everybody from all over the world. So once I get exposure to that, and then now going to working at Facebook as well, it's a huge company, you know. So it's been very, very different, but definitely grateful for it. So
you're meeting all different types of people then. Yeah. You got your data people, you got your rugby fans. Yeah. It's a whole swath of people, which is cool for you.
That's true.
That's awesome. So you played hoops growing up? That was your thing for a little while?
Yeah. You know, so I played basketball. I was actually playing for Suffolk County Community College when I first graduated from high school, because I went to Patrick Mefford High School out in Long Island. From there, I kind of just left and graduated and went to Stony Brook. Tried to get on the Stony Brook team, but couldn't get onto the Stony Brook team to like play with the team. So I ended up working with the team, helping with the team, working out with the team, and doing things like that. And then as my eligibility came up, the coach from Stony Brook at the time, his name was Dan Russo, and him and Jerry Miro, they had come up to me and said, "Hey, you know, you should play rugby and give it a shot." I was like, "Oh, you know, after my eligibility for basketball, I figured I'd consider it and stuff." And then, long story short, I'm here.
So that was the first time rugby came into your life? Had you had any exposure to it before?
So, I'll probably get in trouble with it, but yes,
yeah?
I have had exposure to rugby before. So when I was in community college, the person that I was dating at the time played.
Okay.
And she played, and I went to watch one of her matches because I've never heard of it before. So I went to watch, and I was like, "Oh, this actually seems pretty interesting, right? I've never I think I could do something like this." And then I saw the guys play right after, and I was like, "Oh no, I can't do anything like that." It was really brutal, you know. And from there, that was like my first exposure to it, right? So I've seen it before, I had an idea of it, but then like later on down the road, that's when I like properly got like formally introduced and actually played and everything. So I knew like how to score, I knew like things you want to do, things you don't want to do, but I didn't know any of like the small techniques and small skills that you learn throughout the game.
So when do you feel like you got really good at it? How long did it take?
Honestly, it's weird. I never really feel like I've
no. You're still trying to get there.
Yeah, gotten really good. You know, when I talk to guys like that were on the team this year, and like there's like this whole wealth of knowledge. You know, you just learn by like playing with people who've been playing it for years, right? And some of the things they may not even be aware of, right? And to them it's just like natural, so they never really like
what?
Articulate it. Just like being able to like read the field, understanding spacing, knowing like when you can use energy, when you don't need to use energy, kind of like basketball, right? If you see someone who's super fit and they start playing basketball, they burn out and they get super exhausted really, really fast, right? But it's just because of knowing when to run, when not to run.
Gotcha.
When to change pace, when not to change pace, just like being able to like exert energy and everything like that. So.
All right, so you're doing your thing in college, and then when does the idea of turning this into a pro career come about?
So I was in college. We had just finished up our season. I was going to be graduating, and then they had a camp for the Olympic Development Academy, right? So I tried out for the camp. I made the camp, and that was like a program that was focused around nurturing players out of college, so like that had the potential to play for like the USA team and for sevens during that time. So it was really like very skill based, which was really helpful because I was like, oh, maybe I can actually like turn this into something, right? And actually like take this professionally. And in doing that, I understood from playing basketball, from playing all these other sports and stuff when I was younger, that like it's not always like set in stone. It's never really like romanticized like that. So I knew that I had to like work. I knew I had to like set myself up for a career outside of just rugby in case anything happens. So I ended up still working on my career, but then saying, hey, look, like let's try to push as far as I can, and let's try to like compete with the people who are like the toughest or the people who are like the best in the country, because that's like the level of competition that I just want to play at naturally.
Yeah, and you're going to find out how good you are. You're going to be challenged. You're going to be pushed. So when you think about your rugby career, what have been some of the biggest challenges for you?
Some of the biggest challenges for me, for my rugby career. So I would start off by saying being able to adapt to players, right? I think in the beginning, when I first started playing, because I was new to the game, it was always saying, hey, like, where would you like me to be? How far would you like me to be? Like, all like me adjusting to all these other players, instead of starting to say, hey, like, I know my skills, I know what I'm good at, and hey, I'm going to be over here, or hey, like, I'll be a little deeper because I feel more comfortable getting it like that because I could beat this player in front of me. You know what I mean? So just being able to like pick and choose how you want to receive the ball, how you want to be able to play the defense or play on offense. Just being able to like speak up more. That's definitely been a big challenge over time.
Yeah, it seems like there has to be a trust in yourself also,
Exactly.
and a trust in your teammates too, but it also can be a revolving door of people. So whether it's players, coach, you know, there's obviously a lot of different changes going on
That's
for you
very
guys.
True. That's
so
very, very true.
How do you deal with that on the fly?
You know, like I feel like change is always constant. You know, like they say it a lot, and like by me seeing that change is always constant, I know like as long as I like stick to like my own core skill sets, and then being able to adapt and being able to like work with other players on the field and off the field, right? Because personal development also like seeps itself into the field when people are playing. You know, so I think like being able to focus on those things have helped me. They kind of given me the skills to be able to like adjust and pivot if anything happens, or if any changes, or let's say if any coaches change, or if anybody wants to make a pivot in terms of how we play, I can be able to adjust to those things a lot faster.
I gotcha. Let's talk about Rugby United New York.
Yeah.
You guys have some great kits. You're playing at MCU Park. People in New York are feeling it. So what's this experience been like for you so far?
Honestly, the experience has been amazing. I think so when you're younger, you play sports, everybody wants to go to the league.
Sure.
Right. And when that's the case, you know, you never really know how much it takes to really become a professional athlete. Right. And even in now, like after I've gotten like the real experience and like that whole like idea of romanticism, where like, you know, it's easy and you just get drafted, like everything you see on TV, like no, those things don't happen like that, right? For most players. And after getting that experience and finally being able to play professional, especially in New York, I think it's been absolutely amazing. Even just the view of
it's a beautiful spot.
It's iconic. It's so iconic. You know, if you want a great snapshot of New York, you know, you have like the roller coaster, you have like the actual like theme park.
Nathan's Hot Dogs.
Yeah, Nathan's Hot Dogs is right there. You know, you can get some frog legs if you want.
Have you tried them?
Yes.
Are they good?
So I realized I'm not a fan of.
Not feeling it. I give you credit for trying though.
Yeah, I was like, let's
Why
try
not?
it out, right?
Yeah.
I was like, you know, I gave it a shot. I was like, it tastes like chicken, but you know, it's kind of like
Still
it's marinated in
frog.
like swamp water, right?
Yeah.
It was like,
There's just certain things like you can doctor them up, but you
Yeah.
still think about what you're eating. You're like, nah, I'm out.
yeah. Everything else there is absolutely fine, right? And it's delicious. So I definitely stop there on my way home and stuff. Whenever I'm traveling back with my family and everything.
I gotcha. So I was reading about you and your teammates. Are you guys still getting mistaken for like Knicks and Mets? Like, is that still a thing you're dealing with?
Yeah. So luckily the blue's a little darker. Previously when we first started, it was like a very, very bright like a royal blue, and everyone thought like, oh, you know, with the Mets or something like that, like or just they were mixing us up with so many different people, and we're like, nope. We play rugby, and it's like, oh, what's rugby? And then you gotta go through the whole spiel of explaining what rugby is. And it's like, oh, it's like football. And it's like, yes, but not
Right,
really.
not exactly.
So, yeah, exactly.
So I think it's interesting because you think about like what the NFL used to be like. Guys were playing during the season, and then they were working jobs in the off season.
Yeah.
That only recently changed within the last couple decades. So what are you like for the other guys? Like you're working at Facebook, but like what do most of the other dudes do with their time off?
Some people are working, right? And then other people are actually still like they're playing for like other clubs, like local clubs, which I think is really important, right? Because now you're still like building up the local community. Like if you have any of these players that are coming from overseas and they're coming to play in New York, yes, it's great, you know, you're getting paid, all those things are happening, but like still they have a wealth of knowledge that's invaluable, right? And you want to be able to give that to like the rest of the rugby community. You want to have them play at like local clubs and stuff so that people can learn and people can grow from those players and take those gems of knowledge to like make themselves a better player and ultimately like raise the overall standard for rugby, especially in New York.
And it feels like there's been some growth too, because you mentioned sevens and like we can see that on TV now, we see it in high school, like it's becoming more of a thing. So even for you, like from your time in college to now, how have you seen things grow in rugby the last few years?
Yeah, I've seen things grow a lot. Like, so when I first first graduated, right, joining that academy, I was playing for the Long Island Rugby Club, right? So I was playing out there, and it was like my first introduction into like men's rugby, and I was playing sevens for them, and it was like a great experience. But then like as I continued to play, and then ultimately like I moved out to the city because I got a work opportunity out there, and then I like joined Old Blue. I started seeing like just like the tiers of people, because a lot of people were coming from overseas and they were coming to play, but they were like living around like in those local areas, right? And they were playing with those clubs, and I saw that like the actual like development of those clubs started to get a lot better over the years, right? So it's changed in terms of the body types. Like you have like there's no like people who are like just standard archetypes, right? That you would normally see. Like the game has gotten a lot faster in terms of the pace. It's not like traditional rugby anymore, which is good.
Yeah.
You know, you've seen that.
Should adapt,
sport,
right? Think of the NBA. Think of all the
Exactly.
3-point shooting now. Like it changes over time.
Exactly. So you see like people are skinnier. They're not like super bulky, because it's not all about driving to the rim. And
Right.
It's like it's a very different game, you know. And I think like everyone's taking a part of that, from the refs, from the coaches, from the players themselves. Everything's happened from there.
Yeah, I feel like with rugby, it used to be a very stereotypical looking body, like
Yeah,
very
exactly.
thick, right? Short, low to the ground. It's like, no,
Yeah.
actually fit guys can play the sport.
Exactly.
And you kind of need to in order for the endurance, too.
That's true. It's very different. So I think like when I think about the amount of time that, you know, you're playing on average with like from whistle to whistle, right? Adding all that up probably comes out to around like 36 minutes or 38 minutes or something, right? Whereas like you look at like football, for instance, that's probably about like 10 minutes.
Right, because it's just start, 5 seconds, stop. Start,
Exactly.
8 seconds, stop.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
it.
So I'll never forget like my first tackle in rugby. I put all my energy in it, right? I made the tackle and everything, and I was exhausted. And I looked up, and everyone's still running around, and I was like, this is.
You're like, I got a little ways to go.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and that's what happens when you're in a game that's like constantly going.
Yeah, and you constantly get the comparisons between football and rugby. But even with rugby, like it seems as though it's a really brutal sport, but the tackling is actually the purest form.
Yeah,
that's the way you
that's
should
very
tackle.
true.
There's no helmet that's being used as a weapon.
Yeah.
So have you dealt with concussion issues? Have guys around you dealt with that, or has it been all right for the most part?
So I have, but like the ones that I have weren't where I was running with my head or the other person was running with the head. It was really like there were two tackles. There was like there was a tackle from me and a tackle from somebody else, and the other person's head like would swing around, and then that's how we would like hit, right? Those are the only times that I've actually had the concussions. Whereas like, you know, when you have a helmet on, you're like, oh, I'm protected. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna throw my head in first, right? Whereas like you can get penalties for those kind of things and those kind of dangerous tackles and putting yourself in those dangerous situations.
Yeah, no question about it. So for people that don't know about the league, like there's teams all around the country. Like people are really invested in this. So what has been the coolest part about traveling the country and seeing some of these fan bases that are really passionate?
So I think the coolest thing about it is that there is like a ton of support, not just for the team and not just for like, oh, like the rivalry, like, oh, we hate that team, we don't like that team, but like just for good rugby.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Want to see some high quality rugby, want to see some exciting matches and stuff. People go there. Like I always like, for me, I make the analogy of like similar to hockey. When I first saw a hockey match in person, it was amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, but when I was watching it on TV, I can barely follow the puck.
It's not the same thing.
Understanding.
Yeah.
It was so different. Whereas like I've noticed that everyone I've seen that have come to play rugby, even their first time, and like I talk to people in the post-match functions and stuff, and they say like it's an amazing experience when you're there.
Yeah.
Because it's very, very different than when you're watching it on TV. You may not know the rules. You talk to anybody that's like watching a match and they know the rules. They're going to explain to you everything, you know. So they're very, very open in that sense too.
So for people that haven't checked you guys out, what's the big pitch to get to Brooklyn, to watch, just to be a little bit more invested in rugby? What are you going to say to those people?
I would definitely tell them that same sentiment, right? I would tell them, hey, look, like if you're going to be playing, if you're going to check it out, right? It's so different than watching it over TV, right? Granted, watching on TV is great, right? And it's super exciting, but like the pace is a lot faster. The hits are harder. Everything, it looks so different when you're watching it in real life, right? And I think that's definitely like the biggest pitch for me, especially anybody that I've brought over to watch it. They're like, this is amazing, this is awesome, right? And the players are a lot of the players are they're living out in the area, living in New York, so it's not like they're like flying in just to play or something like that. So I think like they're giving back to the community, they're caring about like, you know, the fans, and they're paying attention to people. Like, I think that's huge, right? It's a much more immersive feeling than usual. So.
And Brooklyn's a happening spot now too.
That's true. Yeah, it's definitely changed a lot. It's funny. So my mother, my mother was born. She she was born and she was raised in Coney Island, right? So being able to be out there and kind of go all the way, come full circle.
That's amazing
right?
for her.
Like
Here's her son playing in
yeah.
Brooklyn at Coney Island. I mean,
Exactly.
forget it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely surreal, you know.
That's awesome. Well, Mike, you got a great story.
Hey, thank you
Thanks
very
for
much.
coming
I
in.
appreciate that.
Check this guy out at some point. That's Mike. I'm DJ. We'll see you next time here on the Sit Down.